Wife of 7 years cheated on me. Now everyone in my circle, friends, her parents and my parents are suggesting me to take her back. Don't know what to do. My wife and I met 10 years ago when we were both students at the same institution. We dated for 3 years before marrying after 7 years together. She is a lovely and compassionate lady who is adored by everyone in my family. 4 months after we became aware of the affair, I discovered that my wife was having an affair with a mutual acquaintance of ours. It had been a 1.5-month relationship at the time, and she had been quite shady, ignoring my messages and rejecting me every time I tried to initiate. I got a nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. I looked around but couldn't discover anything, so I hired a private investigator, who delivered evidence within a week. The lady in issue was having an adulterous affair with one of our common friends. When I challenged her about it, she admitted to having an adulterous relationship. She immediately fell into tears and pleaded for compassion. They merely go through the motions of a normal cheater when arrested. My requests for all the facts, including a full chronology, were met with hesitation, and she only told me everything at night, owing to her affair on another phone at the time. She told me that she only had 4 sexual encounters with him, and that the rest of the time they were just hanging around and having a wonderful time. More sobbing and self-pitying came 3 days later, as she informed me that she had destroyed all contracts with him and that she would do everything it took to make our marriage succeed, as she promised MC. MC concurred. I told her to leave me alone and that I would not be forced to do anything. The scenario made me feel cheated, embarrassed, and degraded. She relocated to be closer to her parents. After that, she began phoning me every hour, telling me how much she loves me, how much she regrets what she'd done, and how she would do everything to save our marriage. After 2 days of total and full contempt for her, I texted her to let her know we were parting up. My phone began to ring with calls from her parents, sister, and other family members as she fell into a panic and began to have emotional breakdowns. She begs me not to dissolve the marriage and to give her another opportunity. Her affair was made public later that day when she wrote a lengthy Facebook post about how she had screwed up and how she had destroyed her marriage, thus confessing her affair. Despite this, I was secure in my choice. She even insisted on taking a lie detector exam to prove to me that she had never cheated before. I flatly refused. Blah, 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 blah. I asked for some alone time to absorb everything. We've been residing in several locations since then. All of this happened around 4 months ago. Last week, when I filed for divorce, she erupted into tears, begging with me to reconsider and give her another opportunity. After that, she approached my parents and asked them to make an effort to convince me not to file for divorce. They did all they could to encourage me to handle the situation, but they were unsuccessful last night. Also, practically every single one of our mutual friends congratulated and commended her for being so bold as to confess her affair in her Facebook post. In addition, she is concerned about me and feels that I should give her an opportunity to prove herself. She is very sorry for what she has done, and I am on the point of having a nervous breakdown, but I can assure you that she truly regrets her actions. Her dishonesty has caused me the greatest heartbreak of all since I hold her in high regard. I'm completely at a loss on what to do. The way someone who is reconnected with their spouse is dealing with life is important to know. Simply an update, first and foremost, I'd want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you. In light of the outpouring of affection I've received over the last 15 hours, I'd want to express my sincere regret for not replying to your comments and private messages more quickly. I'd like to respond to some of the most often asked questions on this website. However, despite the fact that we do not have children at the present time, we plan to have children after the pandemic has passed. In our respective businesses, we are both entrepreneurs who collaborate on initiatives. The last time I communicated with her was almost 3 months ago, and it wasn't for any personal reasons either. The most recent update is given in the section below. In light of your remarks and private communications, I have chosen to call my parents and notify them that I have filed for divorce. A few hours later, she called me, tears in her eyes, begging with me not to end the relationship. It had been a long time since I had seen or talked to her about the affair, and she pushed me to meet up with her in person to talk about it. Every time I talked, I pretended to be completely uninterested in the subject of the affair. She pledged to explain everything to me, that I would be given the opportunity to hear her side of the story, and that any decision I made would be respected by her and her family. The fact that I was completely clueless about what was going on and had no prior knowledge of the affair will make for a satisfying conclusion. As a consequence, I've decided to plan a meeting with her for the following Sunday afternoon. All that has to be stated is that's all there is to it. Update 1. Everything went well on Sunday afternoon, according to schedule. When I spoke with her, she had a sour tone in her voice. For me, It's the first time in a long time that I've seen her. Our conversation revolved on our relationship, and I requested that she erase her Facebook post, which she graciously agreed to do, and I expressed my gratitude to her for her assistance. I was intrigued by the affair and wanted to learn more about it. What was she thinking when she told me she was dating someone else and then lied to me about it? Afterwards, the woman admitted to me that she had made a mistake and had been extremely self-centered when the event occurred. She didn't blame me for the affair, which I thought was kind of her on my part. I asked her why he was boasting about his adulterous behaviors, and she said that they were merely having a casual conversation about it. She then gave me with text conversations from both of them, in which he was talking about his intriguing life outside of marriage. As a result of her expression of interest, a series of events unfolded one after the other. His messages to my wife throughout the relationship were filled with detailed instructions on how to conceal the relationship's existence. He recommends that she get a backup phone and keep it in her vehicle at all times, just in case. I took screenshots of everything I could locate in order to keep my evidence safe and secure. She quickly pleaded for forgiveness, which I readily accepted, but I couldn't get rid of the horrible sensation I was experiencing. Divorce has always been the first and most apparent choice for me, and it continues to be the case now. She asked me to enroll her in one of the several marital counseling programs available. She has made it clear that she would never date anybody else again after this experience. Unless she changes her mind, I'll be held accountable for her actions. It doesn't cause me any concern at all. We want to continue our collaborative efforts in the future. We did this since it was a project that both of us had intended to work on together, so it made sense. Permit us to suppose that our common friend's wife and him have decided to get back together, according to the most recent information I've been provided with. Due to the fact that children were involved. My sympathies go out to his wife, who had no idea what type of monster he was until he made himself known to her. I'm sorry for what happened to her. As a result, we've reached a point where we must split ways, and I've made a pledge to myself that I will never be involved in another romantic relationship. Final update, my life is falling apart, and 3 days after I informed her of my choice, she ingested fentanyl. She was fortunately spared and is currently receiving therapy. I pay her a daily visit to see how she is and if she needs anything. I'm in a bad mood and feeling a lot of guilt. We've decided that we need to reconcile and work on our relationship. She would be fully healed in a month. In addition, I need to leave the nation to start a new life. Everyone in our buddy circle has referred to me as heartless in the last 2 weeks. My 2 best pals were the only ones who stayed by my side throughout this trying period. I'm very thankful to have them in my life. My parents were furious with me since I was the one who drove her to commit suicide. I also discovered that both of my parents were adulterers, which surprised me. My father was the first to cheat on my mother, and he was also the first to confess. My mother then set out on a vengeance-seeking mission. That explains a lot about why they were so encouraging of my wife. I adore my wife, and the thought of her causing herself pain makes me sick to my stomach. I anticipated that the divorce would be the start of a new chapter in our life, and that we would be able to move on from it. However, things did not turn out the way we had intended. She still has a strong desire to remain with me in our marriage. When I originally contacted you regarding this matter, you were quite kind and helpful. Thank you so much for your assistance, Stangers. Advice: my 27 male, wife, 26 female, had a year-long affair that I discovered. Trying to reconcile with me, I'm still undecided. Greetings to one and everyone. This may turn out to be rather lengthy. From my friend's house, where I will be staying for at least a few days before moving on to a motel for some time, I'm sending this message to you. Unfortunately, I found the existence of this sub after experiencing something that I never in a million years would have imagined happening to me in the first place. My wife of 3 years has been having an affair with a coworker of hers for a year and I have discovered it. I know him personally. She had left her Gmail account on her laptop, which was still signed in, and I discovered this via it. I had absolutely no intention of examining her email, I just happened to see it there and the content drew my attention. After that, I examined her phone to make sure everything was correct. I'm not going to lie, I was completely taken by surprise by this. We had, or at least had, a nice relationship. We were routinely physical with one another and never really got upset at one another. When we first met in college, we dated for over 2 years before deciding to marry. We were thinking about starting a family in the next year or two now that I have a well-paying work and have made significant success in my professional life. I wasn't at all suspicious of what was going on. She is clever, and she seems to have done a good job of concealing her identity. She never came home late at night, never behaved aloof or cold toward me, and she never had an intimate relationship with me. She never expressed any dissatisfaction or dissatisfaction with our relationship to me at any point. I had no notion there was anything wrong, otherwise I would have attempted to remedy it if I had known. I learned via her messages and emails that they frequently got together during their lunch breaks, or that they left work early and went to a hotel or motel for the night. The other gentleman is not married, but he does have a long-term relationship with another woman. So far, I haven't told her anything, and I haven't talked to the other person. The day before yesterday, I took the day off work, left a note on the table for my wife, and headed to my friend's house. I told him everything. Sure enough, when she returned home, she made a number of phone calls and texted. After a while, I didn't respond, but when I did, she burst into tears and begged me to forgive her, telling me it was a silly mistake and that she would go to any length to make things right. We spoke for a bit, but I didn't say anything really noteworthy, and I haven't determined what I'm going to do next. True, I adore her, but betrayal of any type makes me sick to my stomach, and this is right up there with the worst. The truth is, when I was 18, I slipped into a deep and debilitating depression from which I had to fight my way out. It was the most difficult thing I had ever done. It took me 3 years, and the only thing that helped was physical activity and boxing. And now I'm starting to feel myself falling back into that abyss. Even though I adore her, I have strong feelings of animosity against her and the other man at the same time. I'm wondering whether or not to confront the other person and do him significant harm, but my buddy has recommended that I don't. I'm well aware that my emotions are in control of my actions right now, which is why I wanted to go away from my wife and our apartment for a time in order to enable rationality to at least get a foothold in my thoughts. Seeing her weep would cause me to feel pity for her, which is something I do not want to experience. My rational side is telling me to divorce her right now, but I'm not sure I'm ready to make that decision. My thoughts have turned to whether I will ever be able to put my faith in her again, and I believe the answer is no. Here's the thing, I believe myself to be a fair person, and I always try to view things from both sides of the coin when possible. In my search for infidelity-related communities, I stumbled upon the subreddit r/adultery. I assumed it would be similar to this sub, but I immediately discovered that it was the polar opposite of that. I did, however, look through a few of the messages in the hopes of better understanding my wife's reasons. The majority of the postings were about the excitement of trying something new, the fulfillment that came with it, and attempting to escape the sadness in their marriage, among other things. The point is, and I'm not just saying this, I can't see how any of those issues could have arisen. Despite the fact that my wife has always been clever and mature, I find it difficult to comprehend what has happened to her. It was over the phone that she continuously said that it meant nothing to her and that she regrets it more than anything else. But, then, why are you doing it? When I inquired as to the reason, she just said that she didn't know and that it was a failure in judgment, among other things. A slip of judgment that lasted a year? I'm beginning to doubt everything and wonder whether I've squandered years of my life for nothing. I'm not sure whether I'll ever be able to trust another lady again. Right now, I can't picture myself ever being in a committed romantic relationship again. People aren't perfect, and I'm not stupid enough to believe that they are, but what's the purpose of making a commitment to someone if you're simply going to find someone else? That's all there is to it. I needed to get all of this off my chest someplace, even if it meant posting it online. I'm not sure what my next move will be, but for the time being, I don't think the marriage will endure. Her mother, whom I adore, has phoned me 3 times, but I haven't returned her phone calls. I haven't informed anybody about it except for a close buddy with whom I am now living. I do have screenshots of the emails and messages that were sent between them as evidence in the event that I need it. The short version is as follows: I discovered that my wife had been having an affair for a year via emails and messages. I sent her a letter informing her of all that had happened, and then I departed to stay with a friend. I haven't come across her yet. Even if she is distraught and begging with me to remain together and solve things, it is still too soon for me to make a sensible decision. I think all I'm looking for is some input/advice from more senior/experienced individuals. Edit: I've chosen not to fight the other person. It was just a case of my emotions getting the better of me at that point. I'm going to obtain an STD test and will tell her to do the same. There will be no compromising on this. At the moment, I'm leaning toward divorce since I can't see ever looking at her in the same way again after this experience. I'll need some more time to think about it, and I'll need to have a lengthy conversation with her. Her mother has subsequently messaged me, pleading with me to help contact her daughter. She is a wonderful lady who has always been motherly to me throughout my time knowing her, and I want to contact her as soon as possible to speak with her, before I talk to my wife. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. I truly despise the fact that there are so many comments because it suggests that so many of you, both men and women, have experienced something similar. Posting this here and discussing my experience is assisting me in letting go of everything, and I will inform you all as soon as there is an update. Quick update, so yesterday, I went for a long walk and returned the phone call to my mother-in-law. Quick update, my conversation with her did not go into depth, but I did indicate that her daughter had been seeing someone else behind my back for a significant amount of time. She was obviously distraught, but she did not attempt to coerce me into remaining with my wife, which was a blessing. We chatted for a bit, and she requested me to contact my wife, which I agreed to but stated I'd only do so when I'm ready to speak with someone. I was walking over a bridge on my way back to my friend's house, and I'm not going to lie, there was a brief moment when I considered leaping off the bridge. I convinced myself that it would make things a whole lot simpler. What our brains can conjure up is quite amazing, and I was able to let that concept go almost quickly with a giggle. I'm thinking about sitting down with my wife tonight or tomorrow night and having a conversation about it all. In fact, I'm worried my mind is already made up that I'll be asking for a divorce since I haven't been able to envision a scenario in which I won't feel resentful towards her even if we remain together for a while. I'll give her the opportunity to speak all she feels she needs to say before telling her what I've decided. I'll provide an update once we chat, I'm guessing, depending on what happens.